There is chaos in the streets of Los Angeles, California, because of immigrants. An immigrant crisis is what they're calling it. It involves Donald Trump. It involves Governor Gavin Newsom. It involves the National Guard. And I'm not the only one who notices it. Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger did too. The Stephen A. Smith Show in the house. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. As always, I'd like to pause just for a moment to thank my subscribers and followers for supporting the show and giving us love, the millions of downloads we received courtesy of iHeartRadio over the last few months, not to mention the fact that from a digital perspective, we've eclipsed over 1.23 million subscribers over the digital airways of YouTube. Again, none of this is possible here at the Stephen A. Smith Show, the success of the show, if it were not for your love and support. We deeply appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And as I always tell you, keep the love coming, and I'm going to keep on coming. To continue to like and follow the show, just click the bell to get notified for all of our newest content, and you too shall be considered the latest member of the Stephen A. Smith Show family. And while you're doing that, please make sure to pick up a copy of my New York Times best-selling book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, now in paperback. Just go to straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. Once again, that's straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. And as usual, over my right shoulder, you usually see Straight Shooter Media. That's the name of my media company, named after my book, of course. So you get the title Straight Shooter and where it comes from. Let's get started with the situation in Los Angeles, California, where President Donald Trump deployed National Guard troops to the city this weekend to address the violent clashes between immigration enforcement authorities and demonstrators. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE as they are known, began a series of raids last Friday in the country's second largest city. The raid sparked several demonstrations and subsequent clashes between protesters and law enforcement. Many threw rocks at ICE vehicles and set fire to other vehicles in downtown Los Angeles. Those actions prompted President Trump to order the deployment of up to 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles despite objections from Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass. Here's what President Trump wrote on Truth Social yesterday in response to the situation in Los Angeles. Quote, "A once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter," end quote. Meanwhile, Governor Newsom said this morning that the state of California is suing the Trump administration, claiming President Trump illegally federalized the National Guard. Here's what he wrote on social media about the clashes between protesters and law enforcement. This is, quote, "exactly what Donald Trump wanted," end quote. He went on to say, quote, "He flamed the fires and illegally acted to federalize the National Guard. The order he signed doesn't just apply to California. It will allow him to go into any state and do the same thing. We are suing him," end quote. You know, I get where Gavin Newsom is coming from. It's not a good picture. For those of you who don't know, over 40% of the population in the state of California is of Latin descent. Approximately anywhere from 7 to 8% are considered documented, but a larger number than that is considered undocumented. Donald Trump has lost cases before when states and others have filed lawsuits against him. Some of the executive orders that he's issued has not been successful. And we know that his efforts in this particular instance may end up being derailed. But that does not mean that Governor Newsom is not playing directly into his hands. He himself said this is exactly what Donald Trump wanted. Well, forgive this rhetorical question. Then why the hell are you giving it to him? Why the hell are you playing right into the hands of Donald Trump? Because I got news for you. On this particular issue, as it involves migrants, immigrants, those who are undocumented, dare we say illegal, in the United States of America, he's winning on this issue. There's a reason he won a popular vote. There's a reason he won the Electoral College vote. There's a reason he won every swing state. There are people within the United States of America that want our immigration crisis addressed and want the situation resolved somehow, some way. And the person that seems eager to bring a resolution to the table is President Donald Trump. Now, others may challenge that because they may say we had a bipartisan agreement when Joe Biden was in office that Donald Trump convinced the GOP to nix because he wanted to use it as an issue to favor him during the election. Well, damn it, it worked. It worked. And I got news for you, Governor Newsom. It's working now. But before I go any further to elaborate on this issue, let's hear from Donald Trump himself. Let's see how he feels about the state of California and what's been going on under Governor Newsom's regime. Check out the president.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems?
Oh,
Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Can't go that far. Can't speak that way about everybody. If you're black and you see blacks being arrested, ultimately incarcerated, scheduled for deportation, how would you react? So we got to look at the Hispanic community, the Latin community, and we have to say, you know what, we can't blame them to come into the defense of their own. And everybody is not a criminal. Everybody is not there committing heinous acts and what have you. But it's not a good look. There's no question about that when you're attacking ICE agents, trying to show their identities and pull off their masks, trying to expose them, lighting fires to cars on the roads in the city of Los Angeles and causing all of this kind of chaos, particularly if you're undocumented. That means that you're here illegally. And if you're here illegally, the nerve for you to be causing that kind of trouble. Okay, that's a different subject for another moment. But let me get to something very, very important, because based off of what Donald Trump said, I'm making the point that Gavin Newsom is losing this argument. How would I say that? Why would I deduce that? How would I come up with such a thing? Well, listen to the folks on CNN and what they highlighted with this chart. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way, way, way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written it up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate. The American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS plus 6. You see it here, CNN plus 6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, plus 19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans, the American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number one. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans, and that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes out of Los Angeles.
Did you hear that, Governor Newsom? Did you hear that? I know you're about to leave office soon. I get that. But did you just hear that? America is with Donald Trump. America is with the GOP on this issue. Okay? He's gaining traction in the midst of distracting us from all the other issues that involves him right now because of what's going on in the streets of Los Angeles. This is not a winning argument for Governor Newsom. And because it's not a winning argument for him, it's not going to be a winning argument for Mayor Karen Bass, and it's not going to be a winning argument for the Democratic Party. Where would I get that from? Let me read some stuff to you. This is on the state of California alone, just on some research note here. Current deficit. California faces a projected $12 billion. This is according to research. California faces a projected $12 billion additional budget shortfall for 25-26, meaning 2025-2026, on top of previous gaps, marking at least the third straight year of structural deficits. Annual spending, in terms of structural deficits, annual spending exceeds revenue by $10 to $20 billion, prompting reliance on reserves, borrowing, and accounting maneuvers. Without reform, state debt could reach $42 billion. Rainy day reserves. The governor plans to use $7.1 billion from reserves, leaving a total cushion of approximately $15.7 billion by mid-2026. So now you're digging in to the rainy reserves, okay? Rainy day reserves. Immigration, undocumented population. According to the research, estimated numbers as of 2022, California had about 1.8 million undocumented immigrants, the largest in any state in the United States, though down 120,000 recently, okay? This equates to roughly 7.3% of California's total population, by the way, involving broader immigrant workforce. Approximately 1/3 of jobs in California are held by immigrants, including legal, naturalized, and undocumented. So what happens here is that you have people that are looking at the migrant crisis, looking at undocumented immigrants, looking at illegal immigrants, seeing them use the healthcare system. Ever heard of Medi-Cal? And then remember with California and Newsom, they were talking about how billions were spent, okay, on illegal immigrants. And as a result, there's a shortfall there, and you're looking for federal assistance. These are the kind of things that are going on in the state of California. Gavin Newsom knows this better than anybody. So why make this argument as vociferous as it is against the Trump administration and then engaging in challenging the head of ICE to come and arrest you? Why would you do that, Gavin Newsom? Why would you do this? Here's the quote. He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. That kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go. That's Gavin Newsom daring the head of ICE, Mr. Tom Homan, to arrest him. Tom Homan, in case y'all don't remember who the hell he is, he's been a guest on this show. And this is a man, okay, that is not messing around. And he has made it very, very clear that he is not beyond arresting elected officials. He is not beyond arresting sitting mayors, sitting governors, whomever. He doesn't give a damn. He's not playing. And Donald Trump just spoke publicly today saying if he was Tom Homan, I would take Gavin Newsom up on his offer and arrest him. But again, in case you don't remember who he is, let me show you who he is. This is Tom Homan months ago, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Take a look at who this man is and what he stands for with the issue of illegal immigration. Check it out.
Sanctuary cities are sanctuary for criminals. And we're going to hold them accountable. And Pam Bondi, now that she's the Attorney General, she's already filed lawsuits. And we're going to continue filing lawsuits because we think knowingly releasing a public safety threat back into the public is just dumb. There's no reason for that. When you release a public safety threat back in the public, it puts our officers at great risk because rather than arresting somebody in the safety and security of county jail, Now we got to go to the neighborhood and find them, which is dangerous for the officer, dangerous for the alien because anything can happen on a street arrest, and it's certainly dangerous for the community. And what you're going to force ICE in the community, and we'll find the bad guy, but when we find him, he's probably with others that aren't a criminal threat, but they're in the country illegally. Well, they're going to go too, because we're not going to turn our back on illegal alien. Once we find it, we're going to let ICE do their job and enforce immigration law. So what you get being a sanctuary city is exactly what you don't want. More officers in the community and more collateral arrests, because we found them while we're looking for the bad guy. I don't understand why any elected official whose number one responsibility is protection of their community, why would you not work with us to remove a child rapist from the community rather than release them back in the community?
The man is not playing. And by the way, correction, he's not the head of ICE. That would be Mr. Todd Lyons. Who Tom Homan is the border czar, who has been empowered by the president of the United States, the 47th president, which is Donald Trump. So the man ain't playing, okay? In the end, here's what this comes down to. The state of California, with a third of its workforce being made up of migrants, of immigrants, is in a situation right now that's very tense, to say the least. Why Donald Trump would send 2,000 members of the National Guard to protesters that didn't even amount to 1,000, according to latest figures, beats me. One would imagine it's all pomp and circumstance. It's all to give a visual, to send a message, to make things seem a bit more chaotic than they may actually be. I don't know, but one could easily suspect that, because this is an issue that works for him. And with what's going on between Ukraine and Russia, with what's going on with Israel and Hamas, with what's going on in terms of other things that people have been pointing to that are ravaging our country, issues that are ravaging our country, with the big, beautiful bill having not yet been passed by the Senate, with so much work to still be done, probably before the 4th of July. They better get something done before these senators and representatives decide to go on vacation. All of these things are things that have been huge distractions for Donald Trump, not to mention Elon Musk going nuclear on him a week ago. So an issue like this plays right into his hands. It's right in his wheelhouse, because he knows that the American people primarily supported him on this issue, much, much more so than they'll ever support Gavin Newsom. So when you see Gavin Newsom speaking about it, when you see Mayor Bass speaking about it, when you hear Democrats speaking against Donald Trump, ultimately, they're going to say, he's going to be able to say, they're speaking against me on this issue, which he knows he has the support of the American people on. And as a result, it's going to be yet the latest derailment for the Democratic Party if they're not careful. As far as I'm concerned with Gavin Newsom, he's been welcomed on the show many times. I'll welcome him again. I know how smart he is. I know how caring he is. But in the same breath, he might be on the wrong side of this issue in terms of how he's electing to handle it. Because in the end, this is a guy that's leaving the gubernatorial seat in California. People are looking at him as a presidential candidate in 2028. This ain't gonna win it for him. This ain't gonna win it for him. Not when we look at the state of California and its state income taxes, not when we look at the cost of living, not when we look at crime in the streets, not when we look at homelessness, not when we look at the border issue, not when we look at a whole bunch of things. This ain't the issue for him to fall on his sword over, in my opinion. Nevertheless, he seems hell-bent on doing so. I don't know if he can win this issue. I don't know if Gavin Newsom has won any issue lately. And to be so smart and to be so sharp, but to find himself on the wrong side of issues time and time again when it comes to the state of California in the eyes of people, it's hard to imagine what's going on. Those are just my thoughts. We shall see. All right, folks, I need you all to stop what you're doing and listen up. You know I love this time of year, right? The NBA playoffs are in full effect. The NBA finals are here. And with all this action jumping off, the Stephen A. Smith Show wants to make sure you take advantage of it all. That's why we partnered with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is easy to use, you know. Just pick more or less on a few player stats, and you can win up to 2,000 times your cash on a single lineup. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code SAS and download the app now. Again, download the app and use code SAS to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, hey, run your game. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder evened the series against the Indiana Pacers on the series as the series heads to Indiana for Game 3 on Wednesday night. So I'll give you my picks for that game. First up, with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Shea Butter, I like to call him, scored more or less than 34.5 points. Believe it or not, in this game, I'm going to go with less. I think Indiana's going to come ready. I think that Shea's going to be a bit unselfish. He's going to be looking to distribute the basketball and get other people involved. He'll probably have about 30 to 32, but I think it's going to be a little bit less than 34.5. I'm going to go with less on this one. Next up, will his sidekick, his backcourt mate, Jalen Williams, score more or less than 21.5 points? I'm going with less on this as well. I think Wiggins and Dort and Caruso and Holmgren and others will be more involved. He's going to get some points, but is it going to be more than 21.5? I'm going to say less for Jalen Williams as well. Next up, will Tyrese Halliburton score more or less than 17.5 points? Yes, he'd better, because the time has arrived for him to recognize that that brother that plays your position on the other team is the league MVP, averaging 36 a game in this series. Tyrese got to show up, averaging 15.5 points in the series. That ain't gonna cut it. You got to step up, bro. You got to step up. I think he will in front of those home fans in Indiana for Game 3. We'll see what happens. And finally, will Pascal Siakam score more or less than 19.5 points? He's a champion. I think that there's some opportunities that he can get, he can be given. Rick Carlisle will make sure of that. I see him scoring more than 19.5 points on Indiana's home turf for Game 3 Wednesday night. So that's less for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's less for Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. More for Tyrese Halliburton and more for Pascal Siakam of the Indiana Pacers, okay? That's my picks. I like that. I like that. And by the way, go to Prize Picks. Go to the Prize Picks app and check out the Stephen A. Smith Show community play. It's boosted for 25%. It's right there for you, baby. It's right there for you. My next guest knows a thing or two about the state of California. He served as the 38th governor of the state, and he happens to be an Emmy and Golden Globe award-winning actor. He now stars and executive produces the Netflix hit series, Fubar. Please welcome the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger to the show. Sir, it is an honor and a privilege. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you. I came back from Austria just a few days ago and with a little cough.
Okay.
So if I have a cough attack in the middle of this, just be patient with me,
Hey,
okay?
man, hey, listen, and I can do you one better. Damn it, I run this show. I'll pause, cut out the cough, and then get right back to you, so nobody will notice the cough. So you don't have to worry about it a thing. You don't have to worry and think about it. Listen,
very nice of you. Very nice.
Arnold, before we get into Fubar, because I can't wait to talk to you about that Netflix series. I really have enjoyed watching it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But news obviously takes precedent first. Before we get into that series, I wanted to get your thoughts on the current unrest taking place in Los Angeles after ICE agents raided several businesses and protests that led President Donald Trump to order the deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops to the city. What's your reaction to all of this?
My reaction is I hope that they solve this problem as quickly as possible. As you know, that Los Angeles has gone through some really bad fires recently, and I think this is the last thing that we need right now. And I just hope that they will solve this as quickly as possible, because it's going to hurt the people of Los Angeles. It's going to hurt, tourism. It's going to hurt business, the revenues, which they're always short of, Los Angeles and the state of California. So I just really hope that all of them can coordinate that and work together and solve those problems as quickly as possible.
As mentioned, you served as California's governor from 2003 to 2011. As a Republican in a traditionally Democratic state, Homeland Security Czar Tom Homan appeared to threaten to arrest Governor Gavin Newsom before he walked back that comment on Fox News this morning. Newsom says he's now suing the Trump administration for involving the National Guard to begin with. What are your thoughts on how Governor Newsom is responding to the ICE raids and the National Guard being on the ground in L.A.?
Well, the last thing I ever do is criticize a sitting governor. I think that when you have been in this job, you know how challenging it is, and on top of it, we have a different point of view on a lot of things. I'm a Republican and he's a Democrat, so he thinks differently about those kind of issues and about a lot of issues as far as that goes. But I never will criticize him because he has to do it his way. People elected him as a Democrat, and people elected me as a Republican, so I did it my way. I was always, when I was governor, very inclusive I worked with the Democrats and the Republicans and the client the state and the independents. I've worked with everyone together to solve this problem. But we had immigration problems then, and we have immigration problems now. It's just really a shortfall and the shortcoming of the politicians because they never solve the problems. And this is a creation by the politicians in a way because they don't solve the problem. The immigration issue can be resolved very quickly by giving more working permits and student visas to people, and then they don't have to come in here legally. So to me, that is a way to solve it. Democrats and Republicans can come together on this issue and solve this issue.
Arnold, do you find this to be a nationwide issue, or is it a special circumstance in the case of California?
No, the immigration issue has been going on since Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea was always that to solve this issue, and for decades after decades, the politicians didn't, because each one of the parties is interested to not solving it because they can raise money based on that. Republicans do the hardline, and the Democrats do the inclusive kind of a spiel. And so, they all raise money on that. They all campaign on that. So they don't really want to solve it. To me, those problems are there. As a politician, you have the responsibility not to be a party servant, but to be a public servant. And in order to serve the public, you have to solve this problem and to make it a coherent kind of immigration policy. Right now, we don't have one.
Last question on this issue. You publicly endorsed Kamala Harris. The Democratic Party appears to be in flux as facts come to light about Joe Biden's fitness to serve a second term. What does the party need to do to get back on track, in your estimation, even though you were not a member of that party? What advice would you give them?
No advice. I think that they will figure it out themselves of the mistakes that they've made in the past, as much as the Republicans always have to figure it out and the mistakes they've made in order to get reelected again. And so I think they will figure it out. They're very, very smart people in the party, and the Republicans have very smart people in the party. The important thing is just kind of like to kind of serve the people. And if you can prove that you can help the people's lives, and you can so they can put food on the table, they can take care of their families. If you can do that, then you can get the vote. If you run the other way, and if you're just kind of a political hack that only serves the party, then you have the danger that people will abandon you and go in the other direction.
Listen, that's all I got to ask you about that on this particular subject, because I've got to get into your series on Netflix, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Coming up, we'll get into your thoughts on the American Dream in season 2 of Fubar straight ahead. Also, Simone Biles gets into a war of words with Biles and Gaines over transgender inclusion in women's sports. I'll get into that, but not with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I got to talk to him about this Netflix series. We're going to get back with more of Arnold Schwarzenegger in just a minute. You're listening and watching The Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with more in a second. All right, everybody, listen up. With all the big-time sports action that's happening each and every day, the Stephen A. Smith Show wants to make sure you are taking advantage of it all. That's why we partnered with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. To make a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats. Choose from any of your favorite players, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Pascal Siakam, all in the same entry. Then sit back and watch. The list is really endless. You can play Prize Picks in over 40 states, including California and Texas. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50. So just use promo code SAS and download Prize Picks now. Again, download the app and use code SAS to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Hey, run your game.
What? I see what's going on. You have an interest for my daughter. I just want you to know, don't waste too much time, because you have no chance.
Why'd you say that?
Well, because you're unstable and you're all over the place. You're kind of like a loose cannon. I mean, it's the last thing she needs right now in her life. I just don't think she ever would choose you. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, you probably are wrong.
Then I'd just have you killed.
All right, you're taking the piss.
How about 3 pisses a night?
Huh?
I mean, my prostate is so large, it's like a cantaloupe.
No, that's not what I meant. It's an express. Doesn't matter.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Season 2 of Fubar on Netflix, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, begins streaming on June 12th. Welcome back to the show, the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger. Talk to me about this series. I love it. I gotta admit it. I love the father-daughter dynamic, both CIA agents. It's been fabulous. What made you decide to do this?
Well, they came to me with the idea of doing True Lies, but on TV, and to do it for streaming service for Netflix. And I like the idea because True Lies was truly one of my favorite movies that I've ever done.
Yes.
And because it has the right balance of comedy and action and drama, and violence and fun stuff and love and family and all of this kind of combinations that I thought made the movie so successful. And so I said to myself, if we can do a version of that on TV, I think we will have a home run. And that's exactly what we hit in the first season. We had a home run. I mean, the amount of people that watched it, it was number one for endless amount of time. And so then, of course, Netflix decided to do number two. And not only to make it number two, but to also make me the chief action officer of Netflix.
Right.
And now, then that means that you're not only responsible for your action show, but for others as well. But the bottom line is I was delighted when they, kind of pulled the trigger and said we want to have a second season. And, our contract is for 2 seasons anyway. And so I was happy that they went in that direction. And we were having a great time shooting it. The writers did a brilliant kind of job in writing it, because I thought there's a lot of things I did not know when I got into this TV business. Like, for instance, the beginning, the rating of the amount of people that watch the beginning of a series versus the amount of people that watch the end of a series, the completion, what is the completion rate and all of those kind of things. So I was always wondering, why did a series start slow and then they kind of ramp it up? And, I've seen it now at the second season. I mean, it's like it starts out great and it explains everything where we are and the action and the comedy and all this, but all of a sudden, towards the end, it really starts ramping up the amount of action there is. And I said, whoa, isn't it?
Right.
Maybe there's a little bit too much. But I mean, in any case, they did a fantastic job, and I was so happy to work with the same actors again as I worked in the first one, except Carrie Ann Moss came to become part of the team, and an old love from decades ago. And she helped me bring down the Berlin Wall and to fight communism and all of those kind of things. So that whole backdrop story came back again. And of course, now I'm having a dilemma with an old love. And I'm, have a wife that I want to gain back. And there's all of that going on in the midst of all this huge scale action and comedy.
In the midst of all of that, with you scheduled to turn 78 years of age, if I remember correctly, come late July 30th, if I remember correctly. I mean, how shocked are you at the success that you're having at this stage and point in your life and in your career? You're Mr. Action. You brought up True Lies, Jamie Lee Curtis. Let's not forget how fabulous she was in that movie and how fabulous of a movie it was overall. But I imagine that you had some reservations as to whether or not you'd be able to achieve this level of success at this stage and point in your career, yet and still you're here and you're doing it.
Well, I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right. If you get older, then there is not as much interest in you as a major star than it is with younger guys. And I benefited from that when I was 30, 35, 40, 50 years old, and others are benefiting from that. So that's clear. But my kind of staying power has been because I think I chose wisely the kind of projects that I did. And yes, there was a danger. And I think that's the point that you're hitting. Is not only the age, but I was governor for 7 years. And those 7 years, I did not do a movie or a TV show or anything like this. So there was just, replays of other shows that I've done in the past. And so it's very hard to then come back again after that. And by that time also, half of the people, Republicans, half are Democrats, they say, well, he was a Republican. I don't want to watch his show and all this. So you go through all of that also at the same time. And but the bottom line is that I'm very fortunate that I was able to kind of come back after I was finished with the governorship and that I'm at the place where I'm now. But I have to tell you, the main reason for this is that I'm in America,
Mm.
because America still is the land of opportunity. It's the greatest country in the world. And no matter how many problems we have and how many kind of debates there are about leadership and this and that, and the Congress and accomplishing everything and all of those kind of things, and the riots or whatever. I mean, it is the greatest country in the world. I just came from overseas and I had an environmental conference in Vienna.
Okay.
And people still today come up to me and say, please, Arnold, can you help me to get to America? Just like it was 50 years ago. And they asked me, can I help them to come to America? So, I mean, the desire for people wanting to come here is because it is the greatest country with the most opportunities. And I've seen it firsthand. Everything that I've ever accomplished, which was my movie career, which was my family, the money that I made, and becoming governor of the great state of California, and the environmental action, the after-school programs that I've created, my work with Special Olympics, all of this stuff happened because I was in America. And so I love this country, and I cannot wait to celebrate this 250th anniversary.
The feelings that you have, that you just described about the United States of America, I imagine you have always felt that way. But has it elevated since you were governor? Like being a governor of a state as large as California, second largest state in the United States of America, being a governor of that state for those years, did it make you elevate your level of appreciation for America even more so in the aftermath of being a governor than you had before you became governor?
Well, I would say that, I don't think that anything could elevate
Okay,
my enthusiasm
got it.
about being in America since 1968, since I came here. And I was so enthusiastic being here. Then in 1983, I became an American citizen, and that elevated it, of course. Now I am an American. So that was fantastic. When you become governor, it makes you realize, since I didn't work my way up the political ladder,
Okay.
it makes you realize of how complicated things really are and how difficult it is really to work and to bring everyone together. Local government, state government, federal government, how you as a state could be kind of like an environmentally friendly state, but the federal government has no interest. So you have to understand that. You have to understand that not everyone can think the way you do. And you have to appreciate that. And that's what I did. I worked with everyone together. I never looked at anyone as the enemy. And I always was very inclusive. And it made the capital of Sacramento kind of a university for me. I learned so much. And one thing I learned definitely is my interest and my love for policy, not so much so for politics, but for policy, solving problems, and how do we make life for people better.
Now that you're back, you're out of office, you're no longer an elected official, you're back in Hollywood. Are you enjoying it now more than you did before?
I love it, but it's not just, doing Fubar. It's not just being on the set of Fubar and working with wonderful actors and actresses and all of that. It is that the whole combination of the movie business, TV business, the environmental work that I do, the after-school program work that I do, my great family. I mean, my kids, I'm so proud of them. And yesterday my daughter came over with her three kids, and my grandchildren just love coming over to my house and feeding the animals and Lulu and Whiskey, my donkey and my my the dogs,
Okay.
and the pig and everyone. I mean, they just love coming over and doing all of that with me. And so they love their oppa. That's what they call me, oppa.
Right. How do you feel about doing TV? Because this is your first ever TV role. You've been doing movies all of these years, but to my understanding, this is your first TV role, correct?
It is the first TV series, and it is quite different because you work much faster.
Yeah.
So you don't have much time. In the movies, you maybe shoot 3 to 4 pages a day. when you do a TV, it's like 7, 8, 9 pages a day, sometimes even 10 to 12 pages a day. So it really moves much faster because there's not as big of a budget as it is with movies. But I mean, it's okay. You get used to that. You get very disciplined to learn your lines and to hit the mark. That is the most important thing in this business.
Right.
You know, to me, it's like kind of like listen to the director, listen to the writers, and hit your marks and say your dialogue, and then work. I feel like when I do like a movie, I feel like I'm a plumber. I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning and I go to work and I do exactly what they ask me to do. And then I go home at night and you crash in bed or you go and have some time to work out a little bit because fitness and working out is very important. But I tell you, it doesn't matter how old you are, if you have a clear vision of making something successful and being involved in a great project like this Netflix project is, Fubar. I mean, then you're enthusiastic about the whole thing. You have energy and you want to go out there and promote it. Like sitting here right now and talking to you, it's not a job for me.
Right.
It's fun for me. I love talking about you, about my projects and about Fubar and all of those kind of things. So some people consider this as a job and part of the job. I don't consider it a job. I consider it as a fun thing to do.
I always tell people the difference between a job and a career is a job is doing what you have to do to sustain or elevate your quality of life. A career is doing what you want to do. It just so happens to do those things. And you're talking about a career. And by the way, Fubar, I mean, I got to talk to you about the title of this show. Now, it's originally, the acronym originated in the military, which stands for a situation that is effed up beyond all recognition. Is that what Fubar stands for with the title of this show? Or is there another, does the F stand for something else?
Yes, Fubar stands for fucked up beyond all recognition.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
You
that's
love,
what it is.
did you pick that title?
I know you cannot say it there on air because otherwise you get crucified.
Oh, I can say it. Fucked up beyond all recognition. I just said it. Yes, I
Very
can say
nice.
it.
I like your style. You see, that's what I like about you.
So did you come up with it? Did you come up with the title?
I suggested it, and I think everyone liked the idea because they had originally a different title, and then they went for it with this title. And it's just such a great thing. Oh, I'm Fubar. It's just fun because everywhere you go in the world, when you promote this thing, people always ask, well, what does it mean? What does Fubar mean? Then I tell them what it means, and then they try to translate it in their own language. Of course, then it doesn't work the same way. But I mean, that's what it means. The other thing that makes this show successful is, and I just want to add that is, which is maybe a term you don't know either, or that you maybe don't know, and that is the 7 Ps.
Okay.
Do you know about the 7 Ps?
I do not. Educate me, please.
Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Okay. Okay, I'm
You
gonna
see,
hold on to
that is
that.
very important because this show was really well written. This show was very well prepared. And that is the most important thing, is that you go there for rehearsals, that you work on the stunts, that you work on all the magic stuff that you see on the screen, and that you go all out with that. But it's the proper prior planning that prevents poor performance.
Last question. I'm thinking about this now, and I'm asking myself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, an elite bodybuilder, world-class athlete, an action hero, and what have you, you're approaching your 78th birthday, and you seem like you can go on and on, like you've got so much time left because you got so much energy. What's your advice to those out there who are younger, who haven't achieved as much, yet walk around far too often acting like they're tired? What would you say to those folks about what they need to do to get a little spry in their step, to be as energized as Arnold Schwarzenegger appears to do as he's talking about his Netflix hit series, Fubar, right here with your boy, Stephen A. Smith? What advice would you give?
Well, Stephen, I tell you one thing, and I think you talked about that many times. And that is the only way you can have energy is when you have a vision. Because when you have a vision, that means that you have a specific goal that you want to go and chase after. And so everything that you do basically is a step closer to this goal and making this goal a reality. And so to me, when I was working out in the gym 5 hours a day, I didn't say to myself, oh my God, I cannot wait until I have my 50 or 500 sit-ups over, or oh my God, I have to do another set of deadlifts with 550 pounds or 600 pounds. I didn't do any of that. I was looking forward to every single rep and every exercise that I did because it got me one step closer to this vision I had of being Mr. Universe, being the world champion in bodybuilding. And the same was also the case with acting. When everyone said you would never be an actor, you would never be a leading man, I was fighting and fighting because I had a clear vision of being another Clint Eastwood or another one of the Hercules characters in the movies or something like that. So there's no one could shy me away from that. So that gave me energy. The same is when I had a vision about what to do with California. And I ran for governor. I could really talk to the people, very openly and clearly about what I want to do with California. And they bought in because it was very clear and because I had a very clear vision. So I think it's all about the vision, because the vision makes you have a purpose and a goal, and then you chase after that. So no matter how old you are, as long as you have a vision, you're going to be on the right track, and you will always have energy.
I just want to let you know it's such an honor and a privilege to have been talking to you. I've been a fan for many, many years. True Lies is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love Total Recall. Oh, by the way, are you ready for this? One of my favorites. It's crazy to say. Everybody talks about Terminator, Terminator, Terminator. You know another movie of yours I loved? Kindergarten Cop. I loved that one. You know, when you were a school teacher, for crying out loud. A cop masquerading as a school teacher. I've loved you for years, and I can't thank you enough. And this Netflix series, Fubar, is special. It's got that kind of potential. I really like it. I really enjoy it. And I'm honored to have had you on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, buddy. You take care of yourself. The one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. You can catch the season 2 premiere of Fubar June 12th. On Netflix. I know I'm not going to miss it. I watched all the episodes from season 1. I'm telling y'all, it's a hell of a show. It's a hell of a show. Coming up, Olympian Simone Biles gets into a war of words with former swimmer Riley Gaines over transgender inclusion in women's sports. I'll discuss that before closing out the show in a minute. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show. Now I want to get to a story that caught my attention this past weekend, and that's the clash between Olympian Simone Biles and Riley Gaines over the inclusion of transgender athletes in women's sports. Gaines is a former NCAA swimmer turned conservative pundit who joined a lawsuit against the NCAA in March of 2024. The suit, from more than a dozen athletes, accused the NCAA of violating their Title IX rights by allowing transgender swimmer Leah Thomas to compete at the national championships in 2022. Gaines and Thomas tied for 5th, but only Thomas was awarded the 5th place trophy for the 200-yard freestyle. Fast forward to last week, where Gaines spoke out against another transgender athlete. Gaines targeted a Minnesota State high school league for not allowing comments on their post about the Chaplin Park girls team celebrating the state championships. Chaplin Park's team includes a trans athlete. That prompted Simone Biles to post this about Gaines, quote, "You're truly sick. All of this campaigning because you lost a race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans people feel safe in sports. Instead, you bully them. One thing's for sure is no one in sports is safe with you around," end quote. Gaines responded to Biles in follow-up post, saying the 7-time gold medalist's stance on transgender athletes was disappointing and labeled her a, quote, male apologist at the expense of young girls' dreams, end quote. Then she went here, bringing in Larry Nassar, a former national team doctor who sexually abused multiple U.S. gymnasts, including Biles, under the guise of medical treatment. She wrote, quote, "All the horrific sexual abuse Simone Biles witnessed and spoke out against, caused by one man, yet believes women should be forced to strip naked in front of men to validate the man's feelings. You know how many gold medals you'd have if your inclusive dream came true? 0, end quote. Respectfully, Gaines, I was with you until that last quote. Respectfully, that's going a bit too far. Talking about transgender women competing in sports is one issue. Using a guy like Larry Nassar, one of the most despicable human beings we've ever witnessed on this earth, who molested and abused numerous women, numerous gymnasts, including Biles. And to go that low, Gaines, you lost all credibility. You could have made your argument without going that far. No matter what Simone Biles said to you, how she may disagree with you on your position did not warrant you to go that far. Certainly, you're not suggesting that it was okay for her to be molested. Certainly, you're not suggesting it was okay for her to be abused. So why would you say something like that? That's just cruel. Just because she said something that hurt your feelings didn't mean that you had to double down on it by being a gazillion times worse, which, Riley Gaines, is what you are at this particular moment in time. I'm speaking specifically about you going that far. Having said that, the points that you made to Simone Biles outside of the Larry Nassar comment, that should give us all cause to pause. The reality is that it is a disservice to women in a lot of people's eyes that men transitioning to women get to compete in women's sports. Leah Thomas was a perfect example. Her highest ranking at the time, her highest ranking as a male participant was like 554th in the world. He transitioned into being a woman and it was top 10. That speaks for itself. You're born, you got an XY chromosome, it is what it is. It's different. And the reality is that there are an abundance of women out there who have a right to feel the way that Riley Gaines feels, Simone Biles. Now, whether it's right for me or somebody else to say is a different argument. But in the age that we're living in, with Title IX in existence, with us being protective of fairness and equal rights and equal opportunity to women, to then piggyback off of that and follow up on that years later by allowing transgender athletes transitioning from male to female to compete against women, doesn't appear to be fair. And when we lean on this argument about fear, wait a minute. Somebody's not talking about your civil liberties. Somebody's not talking about equality. Somebody's not talking about those things, allowing you to live and let live. They're talking about competition in sports. And if you allow somebody to compete in swimming, it's not going to stop you from allowing them to compete in boxing. It's not going to allow you to disallow them competing in other sports. I remember years ago when Ronda Rousey joked about how when she was undefeated, before Amanda Nunes put it on her, no disrespect to Ronda Rousey, but she was talking about how she could beat Floyd Money Mayweather. Now, come on now. We now know what would have happened to her. We knew it before, but we certainly knew after what we saw Amanda Nunes do to her. And Holly Holmes, by the way, before that. We saw that. We know that in most instances, even though there are women that can beat some men out there, by and large, the elite women don't deserve to be competing against the elite men. And by deserve, I mean, I'm not talking about warranted based on their credentials. I'm talking about based on their gender. You shouldn't be competing against men. I don't want to see a Clarissa Shields in the boxing ring against a Terrence Crawford or a Jamal Charlo or a Canelo Alvarez. I don't want to see one of these ladies in UFC going up against Marab. I don't want to see them going up against, I don't want to see somebody going up against John Jones as a female. So when we're talking about it from that premise, it's one thing for ladies to look at somebody like me or somebody and say, who are you? It's another thing entirely for ladies to be looking at ladies, acting like ladies don't have a right to feel like there's a disadvantage for them if they're going up against a male transitioning to female. We can't have it all, ladies and gentlemen. We can't handle it. We can't have it all. If you ask me my preference, I hope a whole bunch of men transitioning to women come out of the woodwork. So we can have men going up against men, women going up against women, and transgenders going up against transgenders. That's fair. But what Riley Gaines is talking about does seem a bit unfair. She has a right to express those thoughts without Simone Biles coming at her that way. Just because she lost, she's talking about an unfair advantage. And there's no one that can really dispute that if you are a male transitioning to female, that there's an unfair advantage. I don't see women transitioning into men trying to compete in men's sports. If it's happened and I've missed it, I've apologized. But I've missed it. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. Sage Steele, my former colleague at ESPN, a conservative pundit, she had her own thoughts on this matter. And let's read what she had to say here. Easy to say this, Simone Biles, when you only had to compete against fellow women. Every one of your Olympic medals came competing against fellow women. Riley Gaines was not only forced to compete against a man, but forced to share a locker room with a man. That is sick. Shocked and disappointed that you'd attack another woman who has done nothing but uplift other women. If you think it makes sense to create a league for trans people, go for it. Use that huge platform of yours. But to attack Riley for what she has done for little girls who want to be the next Simone Biles is sick. Maybe I would have used the other word other than sick or whatever. But it's not like Sage Steele is wrong. Based on what she described and the facts that we know, Riley Gaines is perfectly within her right to have the opinion that she had, that she's an American citizen who's using the courts to make her argument, which is what we do in our democratic society. Whether you like it or not, Simone Biles, that's just the truth. I respect where you're coming from. I respect your passion to look out for those you feel are being victimized by a large segment of our population. I understand that. But there are a lot of young ladies out there who were born women that feel this is a flagrantly unfair advantage. What about their feelings? What about theirs? Now let's get to your calls before I get on out of here for the day, because I see some people that wanted to call me. I'll get to Kamala Harris about something to close out the show in a minute, but not before I get to the calls. I want to get to the calls first, and then I got some news to give y'all about the former Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Let's go to the phones right now. Let's go to Nikon. You're live with Stephen A. Nikon out of California. What's up, Nikon? How are you?
Hi, Stephen A. I wanted to know, when you have a great scorer like James Harden and when you have a player like Dwayne Wade who won many rings, who do you think is better all time?
I got to give it to Dwayne Wade. Do you know why?
Why?
Because Dwayne Wade showed up when it counted. See, if you're looking at the stats and you're looking at the one-on-one skill set and you're looking at the prolific scoring prowess of a James Harden over several years of his career, particularly when he was in Houston, you have a point. The problem with James Harden's resume is that there has been too many occasions where the moment's called from him. A Game 6 closeout game against San Antonio, a Game 7 in Houston against Golden State, a Game 6 and 7 with the Philadelphia 76ers against Boston, a Game 7 just now against Denver with different teams. There have been several occasions where he has not shown up. And I'm not talking about just a lack of efficiency. I'm talking about a lack of aggression. Where he's attempted 9 shots, 11 shots, 10 shots, or whatever, acting like he didn't even want to be there in games where it was on the line. That has never happened to Dwayne Wade, who's a 3-time champion and an NBA Finals MVP and a Hall of Famer. That ain't even a discussion. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Trey in Texas. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Trey?
Hey, Stephen A., this is Trey. First of all, I want to thank you for signing my book and for being an inspiration to me growing up. So my question to you is, how do you get more involved in sports media as a 22-year-old person?
Well, number one, go to school, get your education. Number two, edify yourself as much as possible. Make sure you stay up on the issues or whatever, and practice. Repetition contributes to excellence. Do it over and over and over again. And don't be about the money, be about the substance. Be about building something. You're 22 years of age, you're wet behind the ears, you're young, you got your whole life ahead of you, a whole career ahead of you. You know, study the issues, study how to be on in front of the camera, study how to speak in front of that microphone. Pay attention to what makes a good subject matter to broach or what makes a good subject matter to avoid. Understand what the people want, what the public at large wants, what have a sense of what's newsworthy and what resonates with an audience on a day-to-day basis. And when you do that, it'll go a long way towards assisting you in your aspirations. Did I answer that question?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. You're the GOAT, man. Thank you for being an inspiration to me all these years, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Trey. Appreciate you. Anthony in New York City, the last caller. What's going on, man? How are you?
Love your work on ESPN.
Thank you.
So I'm calling about these ICE protests in Los Angeles, and I want to get your opinion on it. Honestly, I think it's disgusting. I think it's distasteful.
Hold on. What's disgusting? Hold on. Just for clarity. What's disgusting and what's distasteful for my audience? We don't understand you. What's disgusting and what's distasteful?
The way they're protesting is not peaceful.
Okay.
I see them in the streets burning things. It's not peaceful. Okay. And I'm all for people coming into this country, you know, better opportunity, all that. But they got to do it the right way, Stephen A. There's a process for that. And I don't know how, like, Gavin Newsom and people of Los Angeles support them being here the illegal way, where they don't belong here. There's a process. You have to go to court, get asylum. They're not doing that. They're crossing the border illegally. And certain states are defending that, and I don't understand that. And that's what really grinds my gears. I want just your thoughts on that.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, and don't hang up because I want to hear your response to what I have to say. Number one, California is a sanctuary state. And when you look up the definition of the sanctuary state, it basically gives you a license to fight and fend off federal mandates that may come your way because you don't agree with them. That's what our court system is for. So even though it's a sanctuary state, it doesn't make the state of California illegal in their actions according to the courts. Now, if the courts reach a ruling, particularly after Governor Newsom goes about the business of suing the Trump administration and the court rules in Trump's favor, and then Gavin Newsom and the state of California defied those courts, now you're venturing into a legal status. But until that time comes, if you're labeled a sanctuary state or a sanctuary city, then you're not considered lawless. That's number one. Number two, everybody out there protesting ain't illegal, ain't undocumented. We have to keep that in mind. Some are, there's no doubt about that. Obviously, most, if not all of those protesters support illegal and undocumented immigrants, which is a different subject altogether, something close to what you're alluding to. But that doesn't mean every one of them is illegal and undocumented. There are legal citizens in the United States. There are people here on their visas. There are people here that are documented and naturalized immigrants. And because that's the case, that doesn't mean that would make them legal. And under our laws, you do have the right to protest, okay? Now, that doesn't mean you have the right to burn cars and businesses and steal, like folks were stealing from Jordan's store in downtown LA. They showed footage of that taking place. No, you don't have a right to engage in lawlessness. But sometimes the art of a protest is being as disruptive as you possibly can be so you can garner the attention, not just of the federal government and our elected officials, but the world, making sure the eye of the nation and the world is upon you so they could see what your vociferous protests are all about. That's what's transpiring here, and that's what we have to pay attention to. So again, it's not ideal. We don't like it. we see what's going on in the state of California in terms of their spending compared to the revenue that they're generating, the fact that they're approaching a deficit in the tens of billions of dollars. We understand that. We understand that in a lot of people's eyes, illegal immigration contributes to that because you got people using Medicaid and the Medi-Cal system, as their form of health care, and it's costing taxpayer dollars a lot. We get all of that. And somehow, some way, it's got to be fixed. But Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best. It could easily be fixed if they were committed to doing it. But either side uses it as a tool to favor themselves when they're running for election. And as a result of that, it's in the politicians' benefit to not resolve this issue. And that's what the problem is right now. And that's why all parties are to be blamed for this, as opposed to just one party, Anthony. All right?
Right. And I respect what you're saying. I understand all that. And I live in a sanctuary state, so I'm from New York City, so I see it here too. And what I don't like is when you speak about illegal immigration, people want to call you a racist or tell me, at work, oh, you don't care about these people. If I don't care about these people, it doesn't make me a racist. I want them to do it the right way, the legal way. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying, Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. That's all it is to me.
All right. I appreciate it. Good points, Anthony. I'm not going to sit up there and decry that. No doubt about it. And I thank you for the call. I'm going to get on out of here, ladies and gentlemen. But before I do, I wanted to show you this statement from former Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States, former Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, who issued this statement. This was not today. This was put out there yesterday, okay? She wrote, Kamala Harris, over the past few months, I've been deeply moved by the outpouring of encouragement from Californians urging me to return home and run for governor. California has always been a place where my story began. It's where I was raised, where I built my career in public service, and where I've seen firsthand the power of progressive, people-centered leadership. After careful thought and heartfelt conversations with my family and trusted advisors, I have decided not to enter the race for governor of California. This was not an easy decision. I hold tremendous respect for the work ahead in Sacramento, and I know California will continue to lead the way on the urgent issues facing our nation, from climate change to reproductive freedom to economic justice. But as I've traveled across the country and listened to people from all walks of life, I feel an even deeper sense of responsibility in this moment. Our nation is at an inflection point. The challenges we face are profound, and the need for steady, principled leadership has never been greater. There's more work ahead. I plan to be a part of it. End quote. Kamala D. Harris, former Vice President of the United States of America. I think she had a chance to win the gubernatorial seat for governor of California. There were some people who thought otherwise. There were some people who thought that she had chances in the past. She had a chance to be the president in 2020. She had a chance to be the president in 2024. Both chances came up short, and that her star has dissipated dramatically, and that she probably would not have won the governor's chair for the state of California. I beg to differ. I think she would have had a chance. But she's entitled to her feelings. She knows what's best for her, and I wish her nothing but the best. What I will say is this, respectfully, I hope she's not pushing aside the race for governor for the state of California because she thinks she has a chance in 2028. I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that Kamala Harris, nor any Democrat from the old guard per se, has a chance. I think the only shot a Democrat has of winning the presidency in 2028 is for there to be complete new blood. The old guard needs to be purged. Now, that doesn't mean somebody like AOC needs to replace Chuck Schumer as, a minority whip in the Senate. That doesn't mean that needs to happen. Because the more progressive you go, the further away you go from the center as a Democratic Party, the less your chances are going to be of recapturing the White House. You will not do it. And Kamala Harris, sad to say, couldn't make it to the Iowa caucuses in 2020. And despite having over $1.5 billion to spend, probably in some people's eyes, because she has such a short period of time to really campaign against Donald Trump, they're trying to blame it on that loss. No, that's not it. You were the vice president when Joe Biden was the president, when he clearly was a bit diminished. I never blamed her for not saying anything. Who's going to dime out their boss? But what could have happened collectively was for folks within the Democratic Party to rally and insist and ultimately do what they ended up doing in July of 2024 when they forced Joe Biden to step down and acknowledge that he was not going to run for re-election. You might not have been able to get him to leave office at that particular moment in time, nor should you have. Because he was in office, you ride the wave. But for folks to try to sell the American people that that man could give you 4 more years was such an egregious miscalculation on the part of the Democratic Party. Anybody associated with it, whether directly or indirectly, is toast. And there's no way you're winning an election. So I sincerely hope that Kamala Harris is making this decision with the understanding that she's got a lot of things to achieve in her life that she can achieve. She's smart, she's educated, she's a former vice president, she's a former senator, she's a former prosecutor, a former state attorney general. There's a lot of things that she can do. She just don't need to have herself thinking about the presidency of the United States. That ain't gonna happen. There, in my opinion, there is no way in hell she would win the Democratic nomination, let alone the presidency, in 2028. So since she's not running for California governor, unless she plans on doing that at a later date, she's essentially telling us her political career is over. I don't know if that's what she's saying, but it certainly seems that way. She's not winning the presidency, y'all. I told you about Joe Biden more than a year in advance. And I'm telling you about Kamala Harris now. She ain't winning the presidency. They won't do it. I'm telling you right now. Remember I said that. Remember I said that. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. I got to get on out of here. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Thanks again to the great Arnold Schwarzenegger for coming on the show and talking about his hit Netflix series, Fubar, Season 2, June 12th. Don't miss it. Stephen A. signing off until next time, ladies and gentlemen. I got to go back to covering the NBA Finals. I'll see you soon. Till then, peace and love.